So the question today we're going to answer is, what impact does the aviation industry have on private jet travel? Now, there's a number of factors that have happened over the last few years which have kind of changed things. But before we get into that, my name is Fabrizio. Welcome on this channel. I'm an airline transport pilot, also an aviation advisor, an aviation strategist, and I buy aircraft for people and I give people advice on aviation. And I'm also the author of this book here, The Quantum Economy, which you can click on the link below to get yourself a copy. But I do recommend that you stay to the end of the video because there's going to be a special offer for you regarding the book. So you want to stay on until the end. So let's get into what impact does the aviation industry and what impact is it having, and will it be having on private jet travel? Well, first of all, we saw this whole COVID thing happen where, lockdowns were in force across the world. Sometimes you weren't allowed to even travel by air, or if you traveled by air, you had to quarantine for a few days on the other end. There were all sorts of things going on. And a lot of people, decided to move to remote areas to kind of be off the grid. Or just to work remotely so they could go out and spend some time out in the woods or in the fields and stuff like that. So we saw a lot of people moving out of the cities into rural areas. And people kind of enjoyed it, being in the rural area. But other people were thinking about, I can't go and visit my different coffee shops around Texas or whatever it may be. And so they started to think, well, maybe if I had my own aeroplane, I could have still traveled. And in fact, there were still quite a bit of travel happening within the United States. For example, the United States is a big place. If you're in New York and you had your own jet, you could easily jump on your jet and go to Hawaii. It's a domestic flight, and go and spend time in your house in Hawaii. A lot of people from New York actually moved from New York down to Florida, or they went to stay in their second home, and their second home then became their primary home. And they thought, you know what, I kind of prefer living here most of the week, and maybe I'll just go to New York for a couple of days a week. So a lot of changes have happened in a lot of people's lives. Also, the number of high net worth individuals around the world that can afford private jet travel, whether they charter, they lease, or they do a fractional ownership, or they buy an airplane. We're talking about just over 3 million people in the world that, have the money to sort of travel by private jet or own an airplane. So a lot of people started to sort of think about this and think, well, wait a minute, flying private is actually very, very convenient. I never thought about it before. Yes, it does cost more than the airlines. But then the next thing that happened, aviation did, they put all these new checks in the airports in force. So you now have to turn up to the airport a lot sooner than your flight. The other thing is a lot of pilots retired. They got early retirement during COVID because the airlines needed to stay afloat. And so what they did is they offered early retirement so they wouldn't have these guys on to have to pay their salaries every month. A lot of people were also forced to get the vaccination, COVID vaccination. Otherwise, they couldn't keep their jobs. So some of these people left. Now a number of airlines have put laws in force where they are not allowed to fire someone if they decide not to vaccinate, whether it's a COVID vaccine or another vaccination. It's really down to the pilot or the flight attendant to decide. So all these things kind of play into it. And there is a pilot shortage, and the pilot shortage is a lot worse than what they're saying. And so when you get onto an airline and you're traveling from A to B to C, and you get to B and you find that your flight from B to C has been delayed, and it's delayed, and then it gets cancelled and you have to go out the next day. And if you're on a business trip where you've got multiple meetings, this can disrupt your whole schedule. So this is happening because of the pilot shortage, and a lot of pilots going sick more than usual. This is another trend which is happening. Cathay Pacific over Christmas cancelled 28 flights due to more sickness in the crew, so they didn't have enough pilots available to fly these flights. So these are the kind of things that are happening in the aviation industry at the moment. We also see technological advancements. We see lots of talk now about AI. There's a project now that Airbus are doing about introducing single pilot operations into airliners, and a lot of pilots are against this. They're saying it's dangerous. But we already have a number of private jets which fly single pilot. We've got, the Pilatus PC-24. We've got the Citation CJ1234, the M2s, the Phenom 100 and 300, the Honda jet. These are all jets that you can fly on your own. You don't need another pilot with you. And of course, Honda now being the Honda Jet Echelon, and that's going to have a 2,600 mile range, so even more range with single pilot operations. So we also have Garmin introduced their avionics, where you can press the button if you're on a flight with just one pilot and that pilot passes out or dies or whatnot, you as a passenger can press this special button and the airplane will land on its own. So the technology is already out there. So is this going to creep in, the single pilot operation creep into airline operation? Yes, it will. It's just a matter of time. And as the technology gets better. One thing that's not much talked about is the hacking of a private jet or hacking of an aeroplane. I think this is coming down the road as well, and sadly no one is putting anything in place to prevent this from happening. While cybersecurity is a big thing with companies, it doesn't seem to be a thing, not even a thing with private aviation and not with the airlines. But as these airplanes now talk to air traffic control and get their clearances through text messaging, and there's a lot of chit-chat going on between the airplanes and the ground. I mean, Gulfstream have got a whole system in place where if something goes wrong on a Gulfstream, the airplane will talk to Gulfstream on the ground and they will know exactly what's wrong with the airplane. And if there's anything that can be fixed or the pilots can troubleshoot, they'll be told what to do, or otherwise when they land, an engineer with a spare part will be waiting for them. And Gulfstream is not the only manufacturer doing this. So, we've got all this technology. So, the aviation industry is influencing the private jet sector. I think, we have seen a surge in private jet travel, and I think this is going to continue as there's more wealthy people being created around the world, and these people are being more aware now that private jet travel is really the way to go. If you've got the money, it's like having a car. That's what I always tell people. Do you own a car? Do you drive your own car? Do you have a chauffeur? What car do you have? Why do you have a car? Why don't you get the bus? Why don't you get the train? And so, yes, of course, there's more and more people that drive these days than fly. But, you can sort of use that similarity, Getting on an airliner is like getting on a bus. You may have to walk 1.5 miles to the bus stop to get on the bus, travel for maybe 45 minutes, then get off the bus and then walk another, half a mile to your destination. And then you have to rely on the time the buses leave. And then you're sitting on the bus with people that you don't know. These are all things happen when you travel by bus or by train, and even with the airlines. So when you're flying on your own private jet, you can't leave from your house, but you can leave from a smaller airport, which may be closer to your house than the main airport. And so this information is getting out there. Also, because of the internet, more people are going on there and getting information. They're coming onto BizJet TV. That's probably why you're here. You're here to find more about private aviation and how it works. And that's why you've come to this channel. And, we've got lots of content here, over 700 and plus videos about private aviation, interviews with owners that tell the story of, why they have a private jet. And that's one of the things that you'll find in the quantum economy. There's the stories of a number of private jet owners and how they use the private jet as a business tool. And that's really, really the thing. It's a business tool. And that's the way it needs to be looked at. Don't think that you're going to buy the plane and charter it out to Tom, Dick and Harry when you're not using it, and you'll fly 100 hours a year and they'll fly 600 hours a year. And guess what? The 600 hours a year will pay for your 100 hours a year, because in reality, that's not going to work. And you can check on the video on the link at the end of this, which will take you to another video. I'll explain how that whole thing functions or dysfunctions, let's call it. But anyway, so let's go to the special offer. Now, I can only give out general information here on BizJet TV. And as I said at the beginning, I help people buy aircraft. That's what I do. So I'm here to sort of help you if you're thinking about buying an aircraft. Let's get on a call. Now, I usually charge for these calls, but what I'm doing today is I'm offering a special offer here. If you get a copy of my book, you can click on the link below to get yourself a copy of The Quantum Economy on Amazon. Buy it so you become a verified purchaser, and then write a review of the book when you've read it, and post me an email telling me that you've bought the book and showing me the review, and that way you will qualify for a free call with me, and we'll set something up in the calendar, and I'll give you a free consultation, and then we can be really, really specific about your needs and see if the private jet is the right way for you to go right now, if you should charter, if you should lease, fractional, or buy an airplane, and what type of airplane would work for you and what the numbers look like. And we'll develop the plan specifically for you and your organization. Now, it's something, as I said before, more and more people are going to be doing this year in 2024. I know there's this war going on in Israel, there's the Ukraine-Russia war, there's the US election, but the entrepreneur is the entrepreneur, and the entrepreneurs are resilient wherever they are in the world. And as I say in the quantum economy, the world is changing. There's a lot of stuff happening, and there are a lot of opportunities out there. But a lot of the opportunities are happening in the developing world, Okay, these new developing markets, and I talk about these markets in the quantum economy. I've talked about Vietnam before. I've even talked about North Korea, because I think that market will eventually open. There's too much going on there. There's lots of minerals and that over in North Korea, and they need to open up their market, and eventually they will. And so there'll be opportunities to go and do business there. Already, people are going in there to do business. There's ways of getting in and out, and I do mention it in another video, which you can click on the link above about that one. But anyway, so these are kind of things that I talk about in the quantum economy. So, these things are happening, and you need to find out about these things and do something about it. So if you're in the market for a private jet, or maybe even you think you're not quite ready yet, but as most people I've talked to that own private jets and use them, they said, you know what? I should have really done this ages ago. I got into private jet ownership a bit too late. Not late, but, a bit later than I should have done. Because if I got into private jet ownership earlier, I would have, my business would have grown a lot quicker, and I would have a better life at the end of it. I mean, this is one of the things why, Walmart do so well, because they own 30 private jets, and I tell the story in my book, The Quantum Economy, and their people can jump on a jet in the morning, go out, visit 3 different cities in one day, and they're home for dinner at night. So there's none of these long layovers that some other companies do in that, and these long travel schedules which take people away from their families. People need to be happy when they come to work. And if people spend time with their families, the family are happier, they're happier, and when people are happier, they perform better. It's just a fact of life. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode of BizJet TV. So click on the link below to get yourself a copy of The Quantum Economy, and then write a review on Amazon for me and send me an email telling me, showing me the review and then we can get on a one-to-one call and be very specific about your aviation needs, your private jet needs, and see what we can do here. And that's all from Fabrizio here on BizJet TV. And remember to check out this other video we did recently about private jet charter and, the real truths behind it. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And I'll see you on the next one.